I did want to start off just by focusing on a couple of local stories that I think are really important that we need to hit on. And this first one, except my computer is being kind of weird, so give me a second while I pull it up on my phone.
All right, there's a couple stories, local and international, that I think are that we definitely have to talk about. Um, the stuff that's going on, I think, in Colombia. I think there's a thing that Democracy Now! Was talking about, which is something that I do want to talk about. How the right wing, I think the right wing government and I think in Colombia is just cracking down on protesters, and protesters are getting shot and killed.
That story is really important and also heartbreaking, but it's also in a way it's
Yeah,
starting to see like the resistance against some really gnarly oppression. This one I wanted to open up with, though, it's kind of a follow up. A couple of weeks ago, you might remember we interviewed somebody from Justice for Black Lives and their ongoing issues with the Grand Rapids Police Department. They were kind of targeting activists doing bogus arrests, up to and including actually the very rally that was a lead up that we interviewed our guest about. More participants were arrested there, again, which was a very small, peaceful rally where nothing, and even like the pearl clutching thing about like property stuff, none like that was going on. But there was this police harassment nonetheless, and I wanted to kind of frame that as what this story that just popped up out of M Live. Activists to city commissioners cut $6 million from Grand Rapids police budget or police before approving the budget. I'm just going to read a couple excerpts from this article, and then me and Lawrence maybe dive a little deeper. Activists are demanding Grand Rapids elected leaders scrap the city's proposed spending plan for 2021 through 22 and draft a new one with extensive community direction and cut nearly $6 million from the police department. In a press conference on Wednesday, May 5th, community leaders with Defund, the GRPD, and Justice for Black Lives issued the list of demands that generally, they say, will provide better budget transparency and community input and result in a safer city for all, including marginalized communities. The city claims to care about equity and inclusion, but their actions show they are not only deliberately ignoring our cries for reimagined public safety, but also deliberately failing to engage with the community in an equitable way, said Donna, a volunteer organizer with Defund the GRPD. Organizers only gave their first names. Well, I'm skip past that anyway. The city's proposed $546 million spending plan for fiscal year 2021 is set for a vote on May 20th. Staff and elected leaders can tweak the plan before approval. To fund the GRPD and Justice for Black Lives, organizers say the 428 budget proposal isn't accessible nor easy to read and lacks transparency in some of the line items. Organizers say the timeline from its unveiling on April 27th to its approval on May 20th is far too short for any meaningful community engagement. The groups demand, among other items, that city commissioners vote no on adopting on May 20th. They say a new spending plan should be drafted that uses a participatory budget process where community members decide where and how their tax dollars are spent, which actually this is going to lead into another story we talk about, which what happens when elected officials push back against those sorts of participatory budgets. But anyway, I digress. Group leaders say the city should allow at least 3 more weeks for the community to review the budget proposal. To fund the GRPD and Justice for Black Lives and other community members have called on city commissioners for nearly a year to defund the police department's share of the budget to a charter mandated minimum of 32%, which would be roughly a $6 million cut in the proposed spending plan. They said defunding Grand Rapids Police is important as they have brutalized and inflicted violence on Black and Brown communities. And there's a lot more that goes into that article, and we will link it in our show notes for those who want to read the full thing. But that really gets to the gist of it. And for my part, Lawrence, this a couple of things ring out to me, and one, of course, this ongoing discussion on, how do we actually create better communities? How can we allocate these funds in more equitable ways? It also reminds me of a lot of the kind of discussions and activism has occurred over the years here in Kalamazoo, especially trying to push for transparency and participatory mechanisms in our own city budget and in the Foundation for Excellence. It definitely rings true to me that, like, for all my critiques of, say, like the foundation, I do remember, at its outset, there's a vigorous schedule of community meetings. Even today, there's still a lot of mechanisms to draw in continuous community input. And it seems like a pretty sensible demand to me, that the people of Grand Rapids are demanding a more democratic decision-making process in the budget, and also like tying it into how grossly overfunded the police department is there and in most major American cities.
I mean, yeah, I think that it's a definitely push in the right direction, in my opinion. The fact that I would like to see where that those millions of dollars are, what they're going to be going into. I mean, it's one thing to defund said police, but it's another thing to also make sure that those funds are being allocated uh, to places that will be able to help out the community. If that's more mental health counseling, um, if that's for other crisis prevention uh, uh, operators, people who are responding to mental health issues or health issues that don't need a gun. If it's going to more social training for the police, so they don't treat everyone like they're a criminal. They're like treat everyone as if they're a murderer. They can assess situations better. Um, but I do think that is a good thing in the right direction. That the citizens will have more of an input on how they want to be policed.
Yeah,
I think those are all positive things.
there are definitely there are models you can look at to see how something like that can work. Something that pops up in the American context. Newark has been doing some very interesting things with policing. Newark, New Jersey, that is. And if you scope it out internationally, in many times in countries that have more, I guess I call grassroots democracy, there is more direct accountability with their police departments. There's a lot of socialist countries in Latin America that kind of directly elect and oversee their public safety officials. And there's also just I think we also too got to make sure there's something that needs to be pointed out. Like training is important, Lawrence, but we also understand there's some very deep-rooted cultural issues with American policing that are kind of unique to our context. Last week when we were talking about all these anti-protest bills, kind of a side point, we talked about like giving motorists a license to kill. Uh,
Yeah.
in much of modern American policing, that's basically been uh, the proviso that most police function is like if you end up killing someone, the department will have your back, et cetera, and that kind of
I
behavior is
mean,
tolerated in much of the
I'm
world.
sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was done with that thought. Go.
Well, I mean, it's not just that. I mean, the whole idea of qualified immunity, the whole reason why qualified immunity is a thing, so that when police officers kill innocent civilians, that they don't have to suffer the consequences for it. Like that's just what it is. It's just that now they're allowing any and everyone to get in on the fun. But and this is the reason why I'm saying this is a step in the right direction for Grand Rapids, because you can't uh, to say that, yeah, we're using our money, we're using our funding to make sure that we are doing what's best for our citizens. Like, yeah, that's always a good thing. Um, I just want to. I would like to see, especially what's happening in Kalamazoo. I would like to see where a lot of that money is going to go, and where are and see the aftermath of that, because we've seen other examples of when police stop overly policing a community and things of that nature, and what happened with crime. We saw it in New York, right? They stopped stop and frisk policies in New York, and the police officers and the police unions and other pro police organizations were all crying that they couldn't crack the heads of brown and black people indiscriminately as they used to, and it showed that crime went down. That what all the things that they were saying was going to happen, that was going to be negative, wasn't the case. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see what happens next in Grand Rapids.
Yep, same
But
here.
I also
Oh, go ahead.
and I also wanted to make sure that those police officers that were just arresting people for no reason, yeah, they need to be charged.
Yeah, yeah, and we're gonna keep a close eye on the story, see how things develop. I really hope organizers up in GR can really put some public pressure on the city commission, get some of these changes made, and maybe we'll have some of our JFBL folks on the show some later date to maybe give us an update on what's going on over there. But
Yeah.
yeah, if you know organizers in the GR area, we'll keep you posted on maybe ways that if you'd like to help, put those forward. I wanted to so because this GR story, we talked so much about like policing and participatory budgeting. I think it goes really well into this issue that I found out about. Is this is an article from the Detroit News, but Detroit, there are people kind of making moves trying to get a more democratic mechanisms for their city budget, and some pushback from not like Donald Trump or the GOP at the Michigan legislature, but actually Gretchen Whitmer's office herself. And I'm gonna read a little bit from this article. I think it's critical, just y'all to get context, and then I think me and Lawrence will dive into some of the deeper implications of this stuff. But this is from an article in the Detroit News. It was published April 30th. Um, Whitmer rejects Detroit's charter revision plan, cites legal deficiencies. Governor Gretchen Whitmer on Friday cited substantial and extensive legal deficiencies in her decision to reject proposed revisions for Detroit City Charter. The governor wrote in a letter to the Detroit Charter Revision Commission chairwoman Carol Weaver that the revised charter includes provisions that could cause a financial crisis for the city and that will require close study by the city's Financial Review Commission that was installed as a component of Detroit's bankruptcy, according to a copy of the letter on Friday. The proposal is the result of a 3-year undertaking by the 9-member commission and panel in 2018 by city voters to address quality of life issues, including water access, affordable transit, affordable housing, strengthened oversight, increased citizen participation, and responsible contracting. So just to give
wait. All of those things, making sure, just to be clear. So they're gonna make sure people's water is clean, that the transportation is okay. I don't hear how these things are negative. So what's the problem?
Yeah, and again, I really just a fine point on it. Like this is unique because again, this new this new system they want to implement, or these changes they want to implement in Detroit, are the result of a panel that the voters of Detroit put forward to come up with solutions to these problems. And yeah, as you echo well, yeah, what are the problems with these things? Well, let's dig a little deep. So, an analysis by Attorney General Dana Nessel's office notes the Charter Commission could make changes in the proposal to address Whitmer's objections and then resubmit a modified plan for her approval. And goes on to say, Detroit Charter Commission Vice Chair Nicole Small on Friday called Whitmer's decision deplorable. She noted that extensive resident participation in the process resulted in hundreds of recommendations and meetings to arrive at the proposal. Small said she and Weaver expect to meet with the commission's legal counsel to determine their next steps. And it goes on to say this is a thing from Nestle's office. Lindsay Mukamel said in an email Friday that Nestle's office was asked to conduct a legal review. Our legal analysis did not contemplate the merit of proposed policy changes and made no recommendations regarding those. That's interesting. And then
so wait. So Gretchen is allegedly she's against all these positive things that would happen.
Basically, well, the argument coming out from top is that it basically there are substantial and extensive legal deficiencies, and what that usually means in politics speak is like somewhere in the convoluted web of Michigan state law, which have been largely shaped by a GOP that is trying to take away local control. It's kind of funny they always talk about like big government. Can make it particularly difficult to do the kind of broad citywide municipal restructuring we're talking about here. And to be fair, it is fairly extensive. Just to describe the way that it would go. Basically, it would parcel out parts, parcel out the authority of the city to different people on different boards. Actually, there's somebody who's coming out against it, which is saying that it would somehow remove the mayor's authority and instead place it more closely into like these smaller running boards, which actually, if you look at the way a lot of grassroots democracies around the world works, that is kind of more closely how it's tied into. Like you have actual like block to block citizens councils and such, and the mayor is basically somebody who just kind of coordinates between all these different groups. But anyway, it goes on to say the Attorney General's review concluded that the proposed charter includes provisions that are inconsistent with requirements of the Home Rule City Act and other applicable state and federal laws. Although the recommendations don't likely directly conflict with the terms of the city's bankruptcy, proposed charter amendments regarding pension payments may be impractical because pension rates are not completely within the city's control. And it goes on to talk a little bit more about the minutia in here. But basically what you're facing here is like the citizens of Detroit are pushing for this new kind of budgeting and kind of way to improve the actual kind of feedback loop between the city administration and the people who live in the city. And we're getting this sort of highly legalistic pushback from the state government. Just one last little bit of context. So, basically, the Financial Review Commission that was installed in 2014 as an oversight measure, giving final say on all city budgets and such. They said Wednesday they assessed the fiscal impact of individual proposals in the plan, but did not come up with an overall dollar amount. That, she added, would be premature and will be based on the actual revisions that are ultimately adopted and how it's implemented. So, this isn't the most straightforward story, but there's a couple of takeaways I really want to press on here, which it's especially the way that this response from the state government was worded. There could always be like technical and logistical boundaries and issues with any proposal, especially proposals that try to kind of democratize and give more equity to a budget. Especially here in Michigan, the GOP legislature has really created a lot of loopholes to make that sort of thing more difficult. But I think one can really point at a sort of disappointment in that there was not more resolute support from the state government, like, oh, we can work through these issues and try to bring about this equitable budget. It was just kind of poo-pooing it. on this strictly legalistic basis. And it reminds me a lot of historically what we've seen in a lot of other, particularly democratic controlled state governments and cities, where you'll say Black Lives Matter, but you will actively kind of make yourself an obstacle when those Black lives want their resources reallocated or they want more direct control over their city. This isn't the first time something like this has happened. We remember a few years ago, early on in Gretchen Whitmer's tenure, she ran into a lot of trouble and pushback trying to shut down Benton Harbor public schools. I almost feel like it seems like kind of a similar dynamic that's playing out here. Lawrence, do you have thoughts on this story?
I mean, okay. Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't we cover a story in Detroit that there were schools that had black mold in them at one point?
Yes.
And we've covered stories. We covered stories in Detroit where it wasn't just Flint that was having poisonous drinking water, but Detroit was also having water issues as well, right? We covered those stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
The proposal that you read seemed like they would fix some of those issues outside of the infrastructure issues of roads and bridges that also can be also fixed in Detroit as well, which would also bring a lot more jobs and to the city, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand the logic in going against this unless there are corporate financial interests that would like for things to stay the same. I don't understand why you wouldn't want to fix the issue.
It looks like Lawrence's audio just cut out real quick here. When they're um, Lawrence, are you back?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't understand why you wouldn't want to fix the issues that happen in the city.
Yeah, and without sounding like you don't need a big conspiracy. There are there are like groups, corporations, etc. that financially benefit from the kind of state of austerity and bankruptcy that Detroit finds itself in. And if you're redirecting the budget towards these like tangible needs for the people, that means like some money is maybe getting diverted away from a corporate benefactor, or again, bankruptcy plays really heavily into real estate. Detroit has one of the highest proportions of like blighted, abandoned homes in the entire country. It's become kind of ground zero in that sense for really like hyper accelerated gentrification. So like in a very kind of macro level viewpoint, keeping living conditions sparse, it encourages people to move. It means more people are abandoning their homes, which means you've got more cheap housing stock for these developers to gobble up and turn into like coffee hipster hut or whatever.
There was a story that the Young Turks and Democracy Now covered where there are a lot of banks that are buying these houses now so that they can have people rent on them. And as of right now, the housing market right now it's great if you have an asset and you are trying to sell. If you're trying to get rid of an asset and get a big chunk of change, because to buy a place right now is absolutely traumatic and hellish for a lot of people I know. Prices for um one to like small colonials and stuff that my friends are trying to buy are going for 3 times the normal rate right now. Like, it's ridiculous. So like when you were talking about like gentrification, that's kind and also the financial backers that profit off of it. It's those same type of banks. It's those same type of banks and lenders that would profit off of a situation that we're in right now.
Yeah, pretty much right on the nose. And again, like way that works in just to kind of put a fine point on my previous point. When housing stock is like that, you know, it means that housing is largely inaccessible for working class people. But if you know, you have the capital to buy up large swaths of property, then you know it doesn't it the investment is worth it to you, while you know an individual or an individual family trying to get an actual home, it's going to be way more difficult. I mean, that goes into much larger, longer standing issues. But think of like talking to your boomer parents about buying a house. It's like, well, I just had to work at Dairy Queen for like 2.5 weeks, and then I bought a house. And like, not like that today, not at all. But yeah.
It's not in any way, shape, or form.
Mm. All right, Lawrence. Well, did you have any other thoughts on this story? I think maybe we go to a quick break and then come on back.
Well, it is 6:30, and normally at 6:30 we always take a break. So this would actually be a good time for a break.
All right, I'm gonna grab another cup of coffee. Y'all listening to the Hood Rat Strategist radio program only on 89.1 WIDR or online at widerfm.org. You can also find our full episodes on our Facebook page, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We break down our show into smaller, shorter, digestible clips based on the topics. Anyway, keep your dial locked. This is the Hood Rat Strategist radio program, your only source for political revolution.